Hey everyone, welcome back to the kitchen. This is Italian Bottles and Bites. I am Rob, and today we are making homemade bread. We are making what is probably my family's favorite style of bread to have, that is focaccia. We're gonna make it right now. It's gonna be delicious. Let's get into it. Okay, focaccia bread's been around a very long time. We're talking hundreds of years. Obviously, it's changed over those years. Matter of fact, flatbreads, breads on stones, leavened breads have been around a very long time in the world of Italy, or for that matter, Greece and in the Middle East, places like this. But with new cooking styles and cooking techniques, man, these breads have gotten better and better, and focaccia's no exception. What I love about focaccia bread is you got this interior that is light and fluffy and airy and just delicious, covered, surrounded by this nice, beautiful, crisp, almost fried crust all the way around the sides and the bottom of this bread. And how does that happen? Well, I'll tell you, olive oil is involved quite a bit. So if you've never made focaccia bread, I think you're absolutely going to love it. It's not a hard bread to make, as you can see by what I got on the counter. There is no mixer. This is all done by hand. There is no kneading to this bread. There's a fold technique we're going to use, and that's it. Really, really simple. It's a bread you can make in one day. I'm making it starting this morning on a Sunday morning, and we're going to have it for dinner this evening. So it's something you can do in one day. So the recipe I'm going to use is 600 grams of flour. I'm going to use all-purpose flour, King Arthur. You can use bread flour, double O flour, whatever you want, but I'm going to use all-purpose flour. I'm going to do 600 grams of flour. I'm going to do 75% hydration. This is a bread that's a little wet. It's got some hydration to it. So I'm doing 75% hydration, which will give me 450 grams of water. We've got some active dry yeast that I'll grab, and we're going to put in here. I like to use a little bit of sugar. I'm going to use honey. You can use granulated sugar if you want, but I'm going to use honey. It's something I enjoy using. And then we're going to have some salt in this recipe. That's really it to put this dough together. We'll talk about in a little bit how you can dress up and make this dough. We'll talk in a little bit how you can, top this bread. A lot of people like to top it with different toppings, seasonings, and herbs that you can put in the dough itself if you wanted to. For today, I'm just making the simple version of focaccia bread. Okay, I've gotten my water, again, 450, I think I'm slightly over 460 grams of water. I'm measuring it in a big cup and using the lines. If you want to do it on the scale, you can, but this works pretty good for me. But I do, on the scale, want to measure out my active dry yeast. Some people use fresh yeast. I prefer active dry. I don't know that I can find fresh yeast in my area. Let's tear this out. I'll also say that I'm blooming my yeast for a couple of reasons. One, I like getting the yeast activated to start working when it gets into the dry ingredients, the flour and the salt. And I also like to see that it's alive, that my yeast is still good and working for me before I put it in dry and it's a dead yeast. So we've got 450 grams of water. I've got this at a warm temperature, right around 95 to 105 degrees. The reason you want it warm is you want the yeast to feel comfy, right? To feel all cozy and start feeling relaxed and ready to start working. If you have cold water, that's going to shut down the yeast, and we don't want that. We want it to start working right away, so you definitely want to use warm water. So we're going to put in, I'm going 6 grams of yeast, and ran out of yeast, but I got another jar. Always have a backup, especially when you're getting a little low. All right, got 3 grams in. Let's go 3 more grams. Now you'll see some recipes where they don't put any kind of sugar or sweetener. I do, and again, the other reason is it starts to help activate the yeast. It gives it something to chew on, to start eating at, and gets it alive and woken up and ready to start working. So I'm just going to put about 6 grams. That's it. Then we're going to grab us a little whisk, and we're going to just get this dissolved in there, get that honey kind of thinned out. and set this aside for about 5 to 7 minutes. And we should start seeing it come to life. And by come to life, I mean we're going to see this foam on top. We're going to see bubbles start to start forming on top, and that's going to tell us that our yeast is active, it's alive, and it's working. So give it about 5 minutes to start doing its thing. In the meantime, let's get our dry ingredients together. So let's get a bowl, let's tear that out. We're going to go 600 grams of flour. Haven't even looked yet because I knew I wasn't even close. Boy, that's 600 on the nose. All right, 600 on the nose. All right, for my salt, I'm going to do 2.5%. So that's going to be about 12, 13 grams of salt. Okay, you heard me say at the beginning there's lots of olive oil, so I needed to get that out as well. And we use that in the dough, and then you're going to see us use it quite a bit in the pan as well. So got my salt in. We're going to mix this up. We're giving the yeast just a couple more minutes. I can see it starting to get some bubbles and get active, so we know it's alive. We'll give it a couple more minutes, and we'll get ready to mix this all together. All right, I'm just going to mix this flour with this wooden spoon, just kind of get that salt incorporated. Okay, we can see that we've got some bubbles going. We've got the foam starting to come. Our water and our yeast is active. It's ready to go. Time to start the mix. I've made a little well in my bowl. Just going to kind of pour this in, and we're going to start mixing this together. Like I said, this is a wet dough at 75% hydration. Just going to give this kind of a swirl. Make sure I get all that yeasty goodness in there. Then we're simply just going to take our wooden spoon, and I'm telling you guys, easy bread to make. To be as delicious as it is, you would think it would take a little bit more work, a little bit more skill, but it doesn't. Really easy dough. Okay, once we kind of get this kind of a little bit wet, we're going to go ahead and put in some olive oil. About 2 big tablespoons to start. All right, once we get the dough kind of to a point where it's mixed pretty well, or there's no dry flour anymore, so all the dry flour is gone, we're just going to kind of mix this and make a little ball, just like that. All right, we've got our dough where we want. It's incorporated. I mean, it's not completely incorporated, but what we're going to let it do now is just kind of rest. We're going to cover it with some saran wrap. Give it 45 minutes to kind of start to finish absorbing all that water, start to build some gluten structure. Won't have a lot, but once we do the technique that we're going to, we'll show you that in just a bit. We're going to spend about a 45 minutes letting it rise, another hour doing a technique of stretching and folding, and we're going to get this dough to where it's in a beautiful spot and ready to make some delicious bread. All right, got my saran wrap. Wow. It's supposed to rain a lot today, and it just started. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. Going to leave that on the counter, probably take a towel, just kind of throw that over. We'll come back, check this in 45 minutes, see what we look like, start our stretch and fold. Okay, it's been 45 minutes. Let's come back. Oh yeah, we can see that our dough has risen and looks really good. Definitely starting to build that gluten structure. That's what we're trying to do. Once we kind of get that all incorporated, it's going to come together, be a little smoother, be a little nicer. But this is because it's a no-knead dough, this is a time-consuming, bread that you make. It's not hard, just you got to be patient with it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get a little water. All right, got a little cold water here. All we're going to do is just kind of get our fingers a little bit wet, and all we're going to do then is just pull this up, stretch it, and as you can see, that kind of breaks apart. That's because we're still kind of in that process of building those glutens. What this is going to do is we do this over the next hour is going to help build those, but also it's building a little layers. So that's 4. We do it a quarter turn each time, and then all we're going to do is kind of get this back in here and just kind of form it up. And you can see already that this is starting to look a little smoother. That's just one turn. We're going to do that 3 more times every 15 minutes. And we're going to get this dough looking good. We'll see you back here in just a few. All right, we're going to come back for our next 15-minute turn. So this is our second one. Total of 4. Going to go back into the water and just do our stretch and pull. Now you can see we're starting to get a little strength in this dough. You can see it's not just ripping apart now. It's building those glutens. Back into the bowl. And we're just going to use the edge of the bowl to just kind of form this back up. And we'll cover it back up, 15 more minutes. Tell you what I'm going to do. You've seen it a couple times. That hour, you're going to do it every 14 minutes. I'm going to come back for that last 15-minute tug, and then we'll start to form our bread and get it into the pan. We're going to bake this in. All right, we're back for the last stretch and fold, and we can see that our dough is continuing to develop, which we like. Looking pretty good. Still have my water. We're just going to do this one last time. This is the 4th one, so I didn't do that 3rd one on camera. I figured you guys have seen this enough. But what we're going to do is this 4th one, you can see these air pockets. I mean, that can tell us that our dough is starting to develop. We're getting those layers and that air in there that we want, so that when we bake this, we get that nice, airy pockets inside our focaccia bread that we're looking for. So, all right, one last stretch and fold 4 times. Form this dough. What we're going to let it do is we're going to do this one last time in the bowl. We're going to let this sit for about another 30 minutes and proof up, and then we're going to transfer it over into our dish that we're going to, our pan that we're going to actually cook this in. And we've got one more proofing in that pan. So this is our dough right now. We'll be back in 30 minutes. Okay, we're back. We've had our 30-minute proof, and we can see that our dough is looking really, really good. Growing, kind of nice and airy. Exactly what we want. I'm just kind of pulling this off real quick, and we're going to leave it like that. What I want to talk to you about is what you can use to make focaccia bread. This is just a standard cake pan, 9x13, perfectly fine to use if you want. If you want to use 9-inch round pans and make 2 different versions with some different toppings, that's fine as well. 8-inch square would be fine. I'm going to use, because I have it and I think it's a great pan and gets me that kind of that crust, that crispy edge that I want, crispy bottom that I want. I'm using the Lloyd's Detroit pizza pan. And, Detroit pizza, not that different than focaccia bread, right? Made in a very similar way. So I'm going to use this pan. It will work really well and do a fantastic job and get me exactly what I want. So, okay, so we used a little olive oil in our preparing of the dough, but now's where the olive oil really comes into play. You want to use about 1/3 of a cup, and what we're going to do is just get it all into our pan, like so. And I'm just going to take my fingers and get it around the sides. Get it all over my fingers. Michael Scott. Hadn't done it in a while. Need to keep up. Big fan. Get the flavor all over. Get my fingers all nice and wet with this oil. And that's what I want. Okay, so you can see that there. Then what we're going to do is, with my hand a little wet, we're going to take this dough and just nice and gently just kind of bring it out into our pan. Like so. Now, this is obviously my bottom, and I don't want that on top, so I'm going to give it a quick little flip here, and you can see that that oil's up my top. I mean, I am lathered up, ladies and gentlemen. I've got some really nice air pockets that I like. So what we're going to do now is we still have our glutens that, you know, are going to be a little tight, meaning when I try to press this out and get it to form to the pan, it may not go corner to corner, which is fine. We're going to leave this for about another 10-15 minutes. Come back, get it to that corner to corner, and then we're going to let it proof for about another hour, and then we're ready to bake this thing. All right, we're back. It's been about an hour. We've let this continue to proof. Let's take this off and see what we see. Oh yeah, look at that. That's looking really good. Okay, so this is proofed up nicely, actually. So all we're going to do now is get our saran wrap off. Okay, we can see how this is proofed up. Looking good. So, at this point, what we need to do is poke our fingers in and have a little fun. So to poke our fingers in and have a little fun, we're just going to put a little oil on our hands and get our fingers with all the good stuff on it. Michael. And all we're going to do is just, we don't want to go like pushing hard to the bottom, but we want to make sure we go down to the bottom. We touch the bottom of the pan. So we're just going to kind of, and this is going to help us develop all of those bumps and things that we see when we cook focaccia bread. So just like that, I'm going to give one little last one there, and boom, that looks good. Okay, we've got all this ready. I'm just going to pop some of these air bubbles, because if you don't pop them, they're just going to blow up and kind of burn on you, and we don't want that to happen. So at this point, let's talk a little bit about toppings, because I've just got me a simple bread here. I'm going to get some flake salt, some sea salt, some flaky sea salt, and that's all I'm going to put on this one. But you will see versions of, and it's really, you know, to whatever you like. You can use any toppings you like. A lot of people will do kind of this, I don't know if it's traditional, but it's one I see a lot, will be, you know, rosemary and garlic on here. Some people will do cherry tomatoes with some roasted garlic on here. Some people do red onions with artichokes. I mean, sky's the limit for what you want to put on top. I'm going simple, just going to make a nice focaccia bread. So we're going to put a little sea salt on top. We'll get ready to bake this thing. All right, what I'm going to put on is this Malden sea salt flakes. Just going to get some out in my hand, and I'm just going to kind of sprinkle this all over. Then this is going to go into the oven. I've got the oven preheated to 425, and we're going to put this in for about 20 to 23 minutes. We'll check it at 20 and see how we look. You'll see some recipes that go as high as 440 as far as temperature. I've done mine enough that I know at 425 it cooks in that time period pretty good for me. We're just going to drizzle a little bit more olive oil around the sides, and then just a little bit on the top. Bingo, bango, bongo. Into the oven we go. See you in 25. It's going to look beautiful. Okay, our bread is done, and I'll tell you, it looks pretty tasty. We just took it out of the oven, so we're going to leave it here for just about 5 minutes. Let it cool down, then we're going to move it over to a cooling rack. Let it cool down a little bit more after that, then we'll slice into it, see what we think. But out of the oven, as you can see, looks really good. Gonna be pretty tasty. All right, got to tell you, kitchen smelling wonderful. I'm going to grab a, maybe, just a, oh yeah, I don't even need to do that. Oil did its job. I mean, it's just nice and loose in the pan. So let's go ahead and get this over here to the cooling rack. All right, boy, tell me that doesn't look good. I mean, all right, we are back. Let's take a look at this bread. Let's grab our serrated knife. I don't know. What do you say, down the middle? Let's just do that. Oh, you can hear that crispy crunch. Let me look first. Whoops, get it all the way through here. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Nice, nice bread. Really happy with that. That's going to be delicious for however we want to use it. Nice and airy and fluffy. Going to make great sandwiches. Going to be good for dipping. One of my favorite ways to eat it is to slice it thin, put a little olive oil on it, quick fry in a skillet, and that olive oil flavor and crust makes it delicious. So eat it any way you like, but make it and enjoy it. All right, that's it for this episode. Thanks everybody for watching. If you haven't already, please like the video, hit the notification bell, and if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out a bunch. And with that, we're done for this episode. We'll see you all in the next one.